is the McBride Rewind, the show that takes you down memory lane with your host, Josh McBride.
Welcome to the McBride Rewind. Today, very excited to have somebody who shaped the late 90s into the early 2000s. Some would say a heartthrob. Most would say a heartthrob of the time, maybe continuously a heartthrob. Andrew Keegan, welcome to the McBride Rewind.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited to have you here because I think when we think about late 90s, early 2000s, I think people immediately go to your face.
Well, I'm sure there's other faces as well, but I appreciate that.
But when you think about your career and the shows and the movies that shaped sort of the millennial childhood, right? I'm a millennial. You continually pop up from Seventh Heaven to Camp Nowhere to 10 Things I Hate About You to Full House to and the list goes on and on. Party of Five. We still come back to you.
It's interesting. I was popping into a lot of different worlds during that time, as you mentioned. All of those shows, all of the films that I've done. It was an interesting, I would say, about a 10-year period of time, which I got to kind of see that. And of course, we all kind of grew up together, considering that people were watching these shows and movies. It was an interesting time. Obviously, things are so different now for the generation that's coming up, but we had a pretty special moment in history, and that's, I guess, why we're talking about it.
Yeah. What was your first job? Was it a TV show? Like your absolute first job? A lot of people start in commercials, or was it print modeling? Because you did a bit of that too. And
I did that as well. Actually, there's I want to say Sears Roebucks with me. It was print, and I was probably 2-3 years old, and in the same photo is Jaleel White at about 4 or 5 years old.
Kidding.
So that technically would be something, I guess, would be the first. I think I did my first commercial when I was 4. And then the first, what I consider acting, 11, 12. Yeah. Ironically, I had forgotten about this, but they just started shooting Baywatch again in my neighborhood in Venice, California. And I did that at about 12, 13, maybe 13. I should look it up. So that would probably have been one of my first TV jobs.
Did you ever have a job that was outside of TV or film or acting?
Okay, so this is interesting. When the strike, not the last one, but the one before that, I started. I was a surf coach. Someone I'm a surfer, and they said, "Hey, you can make some pretty good money for 3 hours of work." So I started, surfing, take him out and take him for a surf.
Did people go, "I know him from somewhere"?
It happened a few times. Yeah. I mean, but it was through someone else. So on the few occasions someone would realize what was happening or who I was, but there was nothing going on. I'm like, hey, I'm an actor. Everyone's on strike, so this is all I got to offer. So that was my most real job, I guess.
That's amazing. Yeah. Did you want teen fame?
Again, I started really young. I don't know that I even understood what fame was or what necessarily I was doing. I'm kind of person, hey, we want you to come do a photo shoot. Okay, great. Teen magazines. Little did I know what really came with it, So I don't remember the idea of fame being important as much as the idea of working and getting to get out of school.
Yeah.
Hey, it's like that felt good. Like, hey, I'm going to work with adults. I'm going to get to do this thing that I'm passionate about. My dad came to LA to be an actor and did act as well. So it felt like, making my parents proud, getting out of school. These were the things that were important to me. Fame was overwhelming when that started to happen. The fan mail was a big thing. Of course, everything's social media now. Everyone's sending you DMs, but back then it was literally thousands of letters. The poor post office. They used to have those mail carrier crates. We'd have to go almost every week to take 1 or 2 of them from, and they would be mad. Like, hey, you got a bunch of mail here. We're in the middle of the valley in California. It's like, we don't want to store this. And
it would get sent to your house?
No.
It was like a P.O. box.
Yeah, P.O. box, right.
Like, that's a little scary.
No. It was the P.O. box. That's what I'm saying, the P.O. box. So that, that was an era when people still wrote letters.
When was the jump off point? Was it Camp Nowhere?
I think it was Camp Nowhere. Well, like I said, somewhere between, memories. Baywatch, somewhere within all of that, the teen magazine thing happened. I think it might have been some of the guest stars. Even I think Camp Nowhere was Camp Nowhere would have been the first studio film that I did. So definitely after that, then whichever guest star roles I did.
I could tell in our house, Camp Nowhere was a huge one. My brother's only a year and a half older, so we grew up relatively at the same time, 2 grades older, but we grew up at the same time. So we watched Camp Nowhere on repeat. I was telling him that you were coming on the podcast, and he goes, Money Mud.
Money Mud.
Which is like only those that would watch that remember that. And I was like, my brother is special. And
so I have a 10-year-old daughter. This is for your brother. And she watched the movie, and she does that to me.
It's awesome.
She looks at me, she goes, Money Mud. I was like,
awesome.
Ugh.
Talk to me about where'd you guys shoot that?
We shot that in LA. We were at the Placerita Canyon, which is where they did the Dukes of Hazzard and the House on the Prairie. So it's considered the Disney Ranch. We also just filmed around LA for the rest of it, but mostly on the ranch.
And what's so crazy, and I was actually talking about it with our staff here before, is Christopher Lloyd was in that movie, and he had just come off Back to the Future. That's right? About a couple of years later.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because at the time, what year? It
was like 94, 93 that you did Camp Nowhere?
Yeah, 93. Yeah, so not too far. Yeah, not too long after.
So I was thinking about like coming in as this sort of new guy that's, technically you, because this is your first studio film, and then working with somebody who had sort of all of this fame and huge movies of Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2, what was that just amazing to have the, I guess, ability to work with him?
I think for him, it was not that great. in the senses of
they were fucking kids.
That's what I mean. Like, and in fairness, you can understand that. He was very kind. We had a great time, but it was very cool, of course, for us as the kids working with someone that's such an icon.
Yeah.
To kind of come full circle to be here now and doing a play that I'm doing and kind of referring to this, the reason we're talking, like having iconicness with my career. It's kind of an interesting beginning point to the point that we're at now.
That role really sort of set you up to be this, because you were sort of like kind of a bully, sort of the heartthrob, all the girls liked. Did you know that was the role you were going for?
I think in a lot of ways, this craft is it's both bringing yourself, your mind, body, and spirit to the role, being authentic, if you will, and there are elements of that character that are me. I think what is super important is being empathetic, even as a bully or as a character that does things that are traditionally known as bad. But it's like, I don't believe that there are bad people. I think people do bad things, but that doesn't mean they're bad people. So how can you continue to bring that level of heart and authenticity to the character and be yourself in the senses of the character?
Is that sort of when all of I feel like everybody remembers you from a cutout, right? Like they ripped out a page in Teen Beat, or they ripped out a page in J14. Like, is that when all that sort of the opportunity to shoot all that came, was after that movie?
After Camp Nowhere? Yeah, absolutely. That was that was the moment when I think the career was the beginning of it solidifying, if you will, but being of that age, about 16, and then the offers to come do a photo shoot, which, again, not knowing what was coming with it, thinking, oh, okay, great. They just want me to come do a photo shoot. I'm an actor. I'll do a photo shoot. Of course, there's some of those photos out there where they're like, yeah, why don't you just, take your shirt off? And I'm like, sure. I'm a surfer. I'm at the beach all the time. Right. I mean, I'm like 15 years old. It's embarrassing now. They're out there. I mean, maybe there's a day I can figure out how to scrub them all, but
I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't know.
Working on, and we talked about it a little bit on Full House and on Baywatch and on Step by Step and so many more. Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Party of Five.
Yeah.
Was there a favorite to work on? We had Jodie Sweetin, obviously, on the podcast, and she's a close friend. And I remember the episode that you guys did together just from TGIF, and so many of these shows, you were seen so much across these different shows that made up so many of our childhood.
And also keep in mind that I was a fan at the time as well.
That was my other question, was were you watching these shows regularly anyways?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, like you said, TGIF and all the little splash commercials, super exciting. So, I mean, it was quite exciting to be a guest star on a show like Full House. In fact, what's interesting about that one is that episode that we shot was their very last, like the last one that they ever filmed. It didn't come in that sequence. I think it was 2 before the finale. So however they reordered or sort of played them was different, but it was literally I was there and watching this show of, I think, 7 years, and this cast and crew kind of have their final curtain call. So I guess in that sense, being a part of that, but yet I also was never a regular on anything. The closest I think I got to was Seventh Heaven as reoccurring,
Right.
back and forth. There was an opportunity to continue on that. I think it was just after Jessica Biel left, and I just had that moment of like, what am I going to do on this show if she's not there?
You played her boyfriend.
I played her boyfriend, and she was moving on to her acting career. So I had opted to not continue, and unfortunately, like I think it would have been fun to do a little bit more at that time. But you look back on it and make decisions. You got to go with it.
Was there a favorite show amongst those shows, at least before we get to Seventh Heaven, that you were like, this is just a great, I love this show. I watch it every week anyways. At that
Party
time,
of Five. Party of Five was really my jam.
Yeah.
And to be on that
Yeah.
show was so cool. I mean, it was just the vibe of that show, the drama. So I remember being on that show, just thinking how I'd really kind of gotten to a level to be able to be playing a guest star on this, reoccurring on that show, actually.
Did you continue when you went? Okay, so I guess we're gonna go a couple more years, and then when you made it to Seventh Heaven, and it was, I think you did over 20 episodes. I read there.
Yeah, I think 20. Yeah. 20.
So that was almost a series regular, I guess.
Well, reoccurring. So that was over 4 seasons,
Okay.
I think. So I did 7 or 8 a year.
Was that a show you always wanted to be on also? And did you know at the time that you were going for a role that was sort of consistent?
It was I think it
The
was
other ones were really one-offs, right? For the most part.
Yeah, aside from Party of Five, I mean, it's kind of interesting how things happen. I was doing Party of Five and Seventh Heaven at the same time, so I booked both jobs, and so it became kind of a bit of a conflict, if you will, scheduling wise, because 2 shows, 2 different parts of the city. So had 2 different productions, kind of like, we need him this day. No, we need him this day.
Right.
So I was kind of like being run around town. Seventh Heaven was a different style. It was very by the book. I remember one of the directors was a director from Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke was a show, like the longest running TV series from like the 40s, 60s. I think it ran for like 20 years. So, we had that level of, directing and everything was just, like I said, by the book. But I think like I said earlier, like I really enjoyed the cast on Party of Five. I mean, all of it was great. I don't have anything bad to say other than, like I said, I just enjoyed Party of Five. It was on the Sony lot in LA, and Nev Campbell and Jennifer Love Hewitt, and it was, I guess, more of like a vibe that I was kind of into, if you will, at that age.
Did you have to audition for each of these roles regardless?
Oh yeah,
You did. And did they call you in because they had seen you on the other projects a lot of the time?
I mean, I think that, however, at that time, your name kind of rises to the top, and it continues to happen. Your relevancy is important for different reasons. There's a trust in what you do as an actor. There's a value to your name, i.e. the teen magazines. And, of course, that stuff continues, to this day with how the system works, if you will.
I asked Jody this question because I thought it was really important, and like I can ask her horrible things also because they're that close. Do you and her answer was yes, because you were a co-star. Was it a co-star, guest star on
reoccurring?
So hers is obviously different on Full House, but like, do you get good residual checks because of all these things continuously running?
I think it's really funny because I'll get different shows, obviously, but I'll get 1-cent checks. It costs like 40 cents to send.
Will it say the project
in the backlog of it? It'll say which project. I probably didn't even look at which project it was because, of course, 1 cent. It's not worth my time.
Right.
To look.
You're right. I get it.
But yeah, we get residuals. I think 10 Things are probably the biggest checks still, but there are
obviously, yeah.
there are still residuals that come from all those shows. Yeah, they're just $10, $20, $50, $80.
Right.
So
having been. When you were doing Seventh Heaven over the course of many seasons, was there people that you hung out with the most on that because it sort of became this family?
So Jessica Biel and I had known each other actually before even she had auditioned, or maybe when she was auditioning for it, right around that time, like right when she came to LA. So we were friends throughout, and we lived in the same area. So as far as the other cast, I mean, some were younger, some were older. So other than Jess, I didn't necessarily have any real relationships with the other cast. I think seeing them later, we went to a 90s con, And so getting to see the younger ones, David and Mackenzie, grown up, like it's wild. Because like last time I saw you, you were like 10 or 9, and seeing them as adults, all wonderful people.
Had you only kept in touch with Jess at that point?
I actually, I haven't seen Jess in probably a decade. I mean, time has gone by. It's like,
everybody has their own life.
Oh yeah, she's got a different life. My life is very simple. I'm in Venice Beach. I surf. I play volleyball. But of course, if we saw each other, it would be a big hug. And, great to see you.
I think what was so great about Seventh Heaven, beyond the fact that it was appointment TV, right? And it was in our house. And again, it was 2 millennials. We fell in love with the characters, but also fell in love with the idea of what family looked like, right? And the characters, and each sort of, there's this always part that goes viral on social where she talks about who was the mom on Seventh Heaven.
Cat. The name of the character, the mom, Cat.
Yeah, Mrs. Camden, we'll call her, where she brings up the marijuana and like people make it such a big deal, and it was such a big deal at the time, right? But in I have to also say that when everything had come out about Stephen Collins about admitting to obviously assaulting 3 girls, it was heartbreaking as a former viewer, because you were like, that is like everybody's dad, almost like how Danny Tanner was in Full House. And I think probably being on set and knowing him, or having done scenes with him, you probably internalized that maybe a little bit different than the viewers when we found out about it.
Yeah, it's interesting doing this off-Broadway play here, and kind of the play being about the industry, what's good about it, what's not good about it. There's a part in the play with one of the other characters kind of says, look, we're here with the intention to do our job, to create what we've created. And it is just unfortunate how things have transpired, what things do, but it's like, we're not responsible for it. And it does tarnish the memory of what we all did together, of course. And it is unfortunate. And at the same time, it's like, life kind of goes on, and you just kind of chalk it up to life doesn't always make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I read in an interview that you said you were leaving Hollywood at one point. Did you ever officially announce, like, I'm done acting, I'm done doing it?
It's not that you ever leave. It's just that, Hollywood kind of does in some situations leave you, and I'm not chasing it. I have a life. I have a wonderful life. I at 20 something years old, moved to Venice Beach, as I mentioned earlier, and I play volleyball and I surf and I have a business and I do work. I have actually another film that's coming out this year called Mandate. And it's a comedy, and I have, so it's like you work when it's appropriate. Doing this play is a passion project. Being on stage, first time on an off-Broadway play, being challenged. I was talking about this earlier too. It's like the muscle of acting. Reworking it and kind of doing it in this way in front of a live audience is just the most thrilling kind of experience as it relates to being an actor. So I'm getting to do that literally tonight and tomorrow night. And from there, where it goes, it goes.
Yeah. We haven't really touched much on 10 Things, but we obviously have to.
Sure.
What a staple in so many people's lives, right? Like, and you probably get exhausted talking about it, just like an artist might get exhausted at singing the same song that they made in 2001. But it really has had this huge resurgence of fans from then, who can remember every line, to now, where people are just watching it for the first time and like falling in love with it. It must be a good feeling.
As a parent of a 10-year-old, what I always find really fun is when a parent and their child are sharing in the joy of this film.
Right.
Meaning, like, I get a lot of calls, like people that I haven't heard from in 15, 20 years. Hey man, I'm here with my 15-year-old daughter and her friends, and they're watching 10 Things. Can you say hi? And the fact that this movie has been so timeless and a new generation can appreciate it the same way that the parent did. It's like we've done something that actually brings a parent and a child together to watch, a Shakespearean inspired film. So
what made it so popular at the time? Like, I could tell you why I love it, but what do you think, as the person that was in it, what made it so popular at the time, and then also having this resurgence?
It's just one of those things. I mean, as it relates to the craft of filmmaking, it's when everything just works together. It's like magic.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for. We had a great cast, we had great music, a great location, a great script. It always starts with the script, great writers, Karen and Kiwi. And when your cast is great and talented, it all just worked. It just really worked on that film.
What do you remember most about shooting it?
Let's see. We were all in this hotel. I want to say it wasn't a Marriott. I don't want if I say the name of it.
We're not sponsored by Marriott.
I was about to say
Yeah.
we don't want to put any hotels in any trouble.
Yeah.
We also, the cast got together. I mean, I've told this story before. We went to the top. They actually ended up putting us all together on one floor because we would smoke weed, and we got high together and had a great time. And we bonded. And I think being in Tacoma, Washington at the time, there was no other thing going on around us. So we just had a hotel and the work that we were doing for 4 or 5 weeks. But yeah, I think ultimately, and of course Heath being who he is and how he was like, just when he came on set, he was the last to arrive. When he arrived, it was just like, okay, this totally makes sense. The same joy that we shared off camera came across on camera. And, that was his first film in the States. He had not done anything. We didn't know who he was. And of course, of who he became. It's so, so wonderful to have had that moment in time, as an artist, to be working with him and the whole cast.
What do you remember the most about him? Because obviously I'm sure that was, as it was heartbreaking for all of us who didn't know him personally, you did, and you worked with him side by side in a lot of scenes and probably off camera, like you just mentioned. Like, what's the one memory you'll take with you that you'll cherish from working with Heath Ledger?
More than that, we spent, once we finished the film, he came to LA. So we spent a whole year together. I don't even think Trevor was out. His best friend, I think who's a dear friend of mine, has continued to be. And so I think I talked to him yesterday, spending time just going around LA, we went to, I think it was Newport at one point. I was dating this singer at the time. So I have so many memories. I actually, the film is hardly what I remember. It's more like spending a year, working on auditions or, we just ran around. It seemed like every day. That's what I really appreciated. It's kind of knowing him that whole year after 10 Things, but really before he did anything else.
Tough one to lose, for sure.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's so interesting because he did so much. There's a documentary that we all went to that they put together, and it's like so interesting. I didn't realize how prolific he was as an artist, whether it was painting, photography. I mean, I remember he was taking photos at the time, which they're out there. I know. I think they're doing a museum in Perth of all of his work. So hopefully one day I'll get to see if any of the photos of me are in there somewhere.
That's awesome. Do you think a movie like 10 Things could be remade today? And would you even be part of it?
I think they've actually tried. I think they did a show and maybe a couple times now. I don't think so. I think, sometimes things shouldn't be remade. If they did, mixed feelings. I did hear they're looking to do a Broadway show on it. Now, that's
fun.
different. That's different. I think that'd be.
Would you be interested in that?
I would be. I mean, doing off Broadway now. I just don't know that they're. I think the roles would probably be for a younger, teenage cast, if you will. So,
but incorporating you some way would be fun.
Maybe. Yeah, okay. Maybe.
Did you feel at the time that you were typecasted in a certain way? Was that ever a thought that went through? Because I feel like so many actors get sort of tied up in this like one role that they sort of like replicate across, whether it's different shows or whether it's as either the bully or the victim or the whatever. Did you ever feel like that?
I think I was fortunate enough actually to go from show to show and actually play different characters. I mean, in Seventh Heaven, I was actually like a single dad, kind of a sweet guy.
Yeah.
Party of Five, a jock. And then of course the earlier characters were, bad boy characters. We had a biracial storyline on the show Moesha. So in a sense, it would be, I think typecasting is more related to being one character for 6 seasons on one show. That's where you kind of get the audience kind of knows you as one character. I was always on different shows, different characters. So I don't know that I was ever typecasted for that reason.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a good thing because who would want to fall into like that kind of trap of feeling like that also?
I mean, listen, at the same time, being a series regular meant you're making some serious money. So, it's a trade-off.
Right.
I was getting, guest star payments, which aren't the same.
Right. I want to ask this question because you've cleared this up so many times, and I wanted it to be cleared up here. Do you know what I'm going to ask you?
I have a feeling.
Yeah. But I had a friend who I said, Andrew Keegan's coming on the podcast. And she said to me, what do you think? Do you know what she said to me?
It's cult related.
Correct. She goes, oh, he started a cult. I was like, no, he didn't. I don't think he started a cult. And when you go online, it's like one of the first things, and it's Andrew Keegan started a cult in 2014, 2012, 2014 called Full Circle. But there's a stigma against what you did, and it feels like you started a community. Now, look, I didn't go deep diving into what this was, and I watched some videos, and there was a special that was done on it. I think ABC did the special. Was it ABC?
Yeah.
And can you just set the record straight? It wasn't really a cult, was it?
It was a spirit, like I led a spiritual community in the heart of Venice, and it was called Full Circle. The press can, create any headline. It's clickbait. Again, a big theme. There's just a lot of bullshit out there. You do a good thing. You bring people together. Sure, it's a church. Sure, I'm an actor. Sure, there are some horrific stories around people handling control and power and spirituality in the wrong way. That is not at all what it was. So, it's unfair with the definition of what a cult is, but cult is also the core word for culture. And Venice is a culturally diverse and culturally rich area, but spirituality can mean a lot of things to people, and it's important. We had a saying at the temple, it's not serious, it's important. People should look deep into themselves as they're, growing in life to heal, because we've all had traumas, and it was very simple in a lot of ways. It was just getting people together. The more we're disconnected with devices and technology, the more we're missing what we really are, which is like we're a village, we're a community. Yeah. So we were based on a book that was about building community. So in a lot of ways, it was just a very cool, community center.
Did you feel like you didn't have community in your life, and that's why you decided to start this?
I mean, I think, growing up, in the industry, you would have, but again, like I said, I was never a regular or anything, so I couldn't really lean into what Seventh Heaven was for Jessica Biel and everybody else in the cast or any of these shows. So I was always a little bit of an outsider. I don't know if it was as much as I missed out on it, as much as I just craved the idea of and Venice was really inspiring for me too at that time. There was a lot going on. This was just after the Occupy movement. So we were kind of a group of people and was, oh, there's a place, let's keep doing this. So that would probably have been the more of the inspiration was the Occupy movement.
It seems like how you clear it up, thank God, because it's so much out there. And I feel like a lot of people ask you that question and they always go cult, and we assume cult is negative, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the times it is, let's be honest.
Yeah, no, it is. I agree.
That you were looking for connection, yeah, and for people around. And in a story, people used to walk in and you guys say, I love you. And they say, I love you back. Yeah. I was watching this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it looks like community.
Yeah, but I don't know that it was necessarily for me as much as something that I recognize and was as much offering as receiving, if that makes sense. Meaning
sure.
Hey, we created a safe space where, it's a lot of work. I put a lot of money into it just to support the idea. And it was 3 years, a lot of people, even to this day, I get messages, how it was such a great experience in their life. And there's a lot of things from sound healing to yoga to meditation. We did 1,000 events in 3 years. So we really offered a lot. And the benefits, like I said, for those who participated were great, and kind of transition. It's like an opportunity to kind of look at life in a different way. What's really important? Is it important to have your corporate job and work until you get sick and then go on medicine? And it's like life is more than that. And that's kind of the whole point of it, is hey, let's just get together.
Do you feel like, having grown up in this industry, that the industry really protects young stars or even exploits them? Did you find, or was it somewhere in the middle?
It's so hard because I think everybody's experience is so different, right? It's just or it's just you call it in reference to it being an industry, but it's just like the world. It's like one show could be great, another show could be terribly toxic. I've seen it all similar to, I'm sure, what you've looked into as far as child star experiences. I happen to have had a perfectly fine experience. It's hard. There was hard moments. There was hard people to work with, but nothing that I couldn't handle or that was outrageous in my experience.
Thank God. For
Yeah,
that.
thank God.
Like,
No, I mean, like I said, and to those who had harder experiences or different kinds of trauma, like, it is unfortunate, but I also think it's representative in the world as much as it is in the industry.
Obviously social media didn't exist then as well. So do you think had it existed then, it would have been a benefit to you or not really? Because I feel like you were everywhere as is. Of the places that we could see you, we saw you on our small screen, we saw you on our big screen, we saw you in our magazines.
Yeah,
we saw you sort of everywhere as it was.
It's kind of surreal. I want to be better at social media, if you will, but I do my best. I don't know that. I think what was important is at that time, things were just so real. And, I wouldn't want to change that.
Yeah. What does success look like to you now?
I think being happy in your life, being happy in your own skin, I'm a father too. So like I'm a volleyball coach to my daughter's team. These things make me happy. Surfing, playing competitive volleyball. And so that's kind of where I'm at in the moment. So I couldn't be happier.
Is there anything else on the bucket list in terms of this entertainment world, or maybe not? Maybe continuing to be a surf instructor.
Just gotta win an Oscar. That's it. That's it.
But you very open to movies still, studio films, the whole thing.
Of course, yeah. I think what's interesting about being an actor versus, say, an athlete is I think you just get better because you've had more life experience. I can play a dad even more authentically than I did on Seventh Heaven. I played a dad on Seventh Heaven. Now I have a 10-year-old.
You actually know how.
I actually am a dad. Yeah. I mean, they were handing me this kid, and I'm just like, okay, buddy, here we go. Okay. Right. Oh, it's my son.
Right.
So, again, of course, it was appropriate for the show at that time. I just do have a lot to offer, and, I think there are roles out there, and I'll, be just as excited to do them now as I was then.
Something in Marvel, right? Like get into the Marvel universe.
It's a good idea.
Right? That's a good petition for that. You'd have the backing.
I think so.
You'd have the backing for that. What do you think like the biggest misconception about you is? And is it that you were a cult leader? Because I was
going to say, you answered my own, you're answering your own questions. You need me here? Can I go now?
And I asked you this kind of, but if Camp Nowhere, if 10 Things I Hate About You wanted to do a sequel, and maybe you'd still be the same role, of course, but maybe you're now the dad that's sending the kid to school. Would you be a part of that?
I'd be open to it. I mean, like I said, we had said earlier, I think it's tough to do 10 things for obvious reasons. Camp Nowhere could be fun, actually.
Very fun.
You know what I mean? To redo. Yeah, that I'd be very open to.
You see a lot of these people because you do 90s Con.
I've done one.
Okay.
So it's actually interesting because we're talking about stage. That was the first time for us who have done film and television in that era to actually meet fans in that kind of way. And also,
they didn't have meet and greets.
I was not a part of that.
Right.
I was a guest star, so I didn't ever really get to interact that much. I think there were certain kind of events at the time, like there was the upfronts, and I guess that was more business related. So, but the thing is also to meet people who are fans of these shows now at this time in life, it's different because they're doctors, they're this, you know what I mean? They would come up and
they weren't in high school and middle school.
Yeah, they're not teenagers anymore. And to actually have that one-on-one interaction where they're how these shows and how this affected their life, it's very interesting to go to those cons. They're a lot, it's a lot to do, but it was as close to kind of meeting the audience that, you never met back then. And it was great.
But I'm sure you engage with fans at the time back then, especially because you probably couldn't have walked around amongst at least teenagers or malls right?
Yeah. I think, like I said, it's just different, but yeah, that would happen. But it would be generally, a bunch of girls screaming. They didn't have the capacity to really talk. It was more like, ah!
Right. Is it weird when people come up to you and being, and I started the interview like this, is it weird though when people come up to you and say how you shaped childhood for them because you were such a part of what they did and what they watched and what they read and what they saw?
It's interesting because it's like so far in the past, and it's great to have been a part of someone's life without actually having been a part of it, other than having done that work. it is interesting. It's an interesting, again, like it's like this out of body experience. Like I don't think about it often. And when that happens, I'm just, I'm very grateful that I've had a good life essentially. And at the same time, it's not over. So, what to do next, we will see.
I think the reason I asked that and the reason I wanted to do this podcast was because there was such the time of late 90s, early 2000s was so different. I sound like I'm
How old are you,
myself.
by the way?
38. But it was so different in TV and film. It was appointment-based TV, right? If you caught TRL, you caught TRL. If not, you'll try to catch it tomorrow. But there was a part of it was calmer. It was easier. Yeah. It was a lot more simple. So I think people like you and the people that we watched regularly, right? The Jodie Swedens of the world, shaped us, which we obviously as adults took something from, right? Because these are the people that we watched as kids, and you're a sponge as a kid. You're learning so much as a kid. So I think that maybe is why people feel such a connection to you as an adult now.
I actually appreciate you explaining it that way because I don't know that it computes for me that way.
But
that's what's like.
I was home watching TV. You were making the TV, right?
Yeah,
and
at the same time, of course, watching TV in that same time. But yeah, I mean, again, it's interesting to hear you explain it because I don't know that I have those conversations very often either. It's like we're here talking about the past, if you will. But again, it was a simpler time. I mean, I was also a kid who had a bike, didn't have a cell phone, didn't even have a computer in the house until I moved out at 16. So, we had, the phones were they had the cords on them still. And like you said, you actually had to watch you actually watch the show when it was on. This was even before TiVo, which now TiVo's even gone. DVR, they're gone. We've watched the complete transition in how we consume media, and again, we feel that this what's exciting to me is to doing a stage play is closer to that. Because it's real. It's in real time. You got to see it. I mean, there's a live stream, by the way. There's a live stream. But it's not the same. It's in real life. I found out what IRL means. So I guess it's a little IRL. And again, it's interesting to, think about all of that work and in my daily life, it's not something that is, top of mind, if you will. And, it's, I don't know. It's just like you're bringing me back, man. I'm like,
but there is such a.
It's called rewind. I'm in my head. I'm like literally going.
You knew what you signed up for. I think for me, it's comfort. Mm-hmm. is why I wanted to do this podcast and why I wanted to have people like you on, because we gained comfort from going to school and coming home and watching 10 Things I Hate About You and watching Full House and watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch and watching Moesha. We watched these things and they were our imaginary families that were, at the time untouchable, right? Very untouchable people. We're never going to meet them. I grew up outside of Boston. And so we'd watch it and we'd fall in love with the characters, but these characters also shaped us. So I think that's why. And I was going to ask you why do you think there is such a resurgence? For me, there's such a resurgence of this space and the people that created this space, and I would call you one of the creators of this space, is because of the comfort that characters like you gave us in that time, and we miss those days.
I mean, I probably also would imagine that a lot of credit goes to the writers and the producers and the directors. We're a vessel. We take the material that we're given and we play the role. And, it's a great compliment. And of course, so very appreciate the sentiment. And of course, I'm just another guy like you. And I think that having done all of this work, this sense is that there's perhaps more importance. But I just feel so normal. And I appreciate it. But I'm a little verklempt. I'm a little verklempt. It sounds like a lot. I think, I was fortunately crazy enough young kid to want to do this and was fortunate enough to do it and find success in it. And, the successes I value now are, being a dad, being a coach to my daughter's team, being a good person in a sense. And, for all those reasons, that's, what's important to me. doing this is something that I do. And, like I said, doing this play is an opportunity to kind of flex that muscle again. The other opportunities that either come from it or don't come from it, who knows, right? But, the opportunity to do what we're talking about again at this point in my life is kind of exciting right now.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
Andrew Keegan, thank you for coming on the McBride Rewind. This was awesome. I think to put a button on it, thank you for shaping so many millennials, Gen Zers, Gen Xers, childhoods, where we got to see you and see your range of acting. We saw different roles, but thank you for being a person for us to look to also as a millennial and as a person who maybe was trying to figure out what middle school looked like, right? What did high school look like? What did a bully look like? What did a nerd look like, right? Like we looked at you and the characters that you played, and a lot of them were middle schoolers or high schoolers or college also. And we were able to see and shape ourselves, I think, based on the people that we watch. I think you played an integral part in that.
I appreciate that. Actually, as you're saying that, I'm remembering or thinking about the Broken Hearts Club. I think of all the films and television that I've done, I think that particular movie was directed by Greg Berlanti, was actually a movie that's the one when someone comes up to me and says, hey, I watched this film and it helped me come out, to my parents and so on. That's what movies and television can do, if you will. And that was actually, just as you were saying all of that's the one film that I think meant the most to me. And appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing more of what you're going to do next. Thank you. Thanks for listening or watching the McBride Rewind. If you like what you heard, subscribe and share this with a friend. If you love what you heard, leave us a review and post us on social media. Tag us at the McBride Rewind on all platforms so we can see it and repost.